a substitute for, you know, kind of following along. I'll rough this out really, really quickly. And so the first thing that I want to spend some time talking about is this concept of modular design. Okay, and we're going to block out our environment. I'm going to start off by creating a cube, 3D cube, and this is going to represent the ground. I'm going to scale this. It's up to you in terms of how big you start to make this, but I would suggest that for the demo today, we kind of stick within the same realm of scale. So I'm going to scale this 50 by 50 along X and Z, and I'll pull back a little bit. I'm keeping the Y scale at 1 for now, and I'm not moving this. This is still set at 0, 0, 0. So if I moved my camera, this would pop up in a different position, and so I'll just zero this out just to make sure that that's in the center of my world, just so that I can reference some of the math involved. I'm also going to jump in right off the bat and make a materials folder so that I can build up some quick contrast inside my scene. So I'm going to create a materials folder. I'm going to jump right into the materials folder and create a material. And I'm going to name these later so that I can get through this really quickly. And I'm just going to basically start with kind of a red, green, and blue. But I'm going to make one material first. I'm going to take down the smoothness. And this is just, you know, preference. I want things really flat for this demo. So just kind of flat, fairly saturated colors for now. So once I make kind of a prototype of a texture, I'm going to Command D to duplicate. And I'll just go through here really quickly and, you know, create a couple different colors. So I'm going to choose, make sort of a green texture as well. I like my greens to be a little more earthy and desaturated. And then finally, maybe I'll create some kind of, you know, neutral colors. And by no means these are, you know, all the colors we're going to use. In fact, we'll talk a little bit about color as we push forward. I'm going to do one more. It's kind of a charcoal or really dark, desaturated color. Okay, so I just like a variety of colors to work with from the beginning without even considering the overall color palette. And then I'll go back and name these once I settle on the colors. So now I have a few things to work with. I'm going to throw the green on the ground just to kind of create a neutral. But again, the colors are completely up to you, but you should have something in your workspace so you can create contrast. I'm creating game objects and naming them as I go. This is very important in this project. So we have tons of cubes, potentially, or tons of the same kind of objects. So I'm going to create another cube. And this cube is going to represent the outer wall, or outer walls. So I'm going to call this outer wall. I'm going to zero out its position all the way around. And I'm going to move it up along Y 1 meter. Okay, and I know that that puts it exactly sitting on the surface because, you know, the base is 1 meter, the wall is now 1 meter above that, and it's 1 meter high, and so it's sitting right on the surface. But I do want to make this taller. So I'm going to maybe make this 3 meters. Oops, excuse me. I'm going to make the scale 3 meters along Y. Along X, I'm going to make this 50 meters, we'll say. Maybe 48. We'll figure that out. I'll say 50 for now. And I'm going to move this up a little bit higher. So you can see that I'm working kind of mathematically right now with kind of taking into account that everything's zeroed out, and when I start moving things, I can move them on factors of 1 and things should line up, but that'll start to break apart when we get into these odd numbers like I just did. We can snap things, and this is very important. If I hold down the Command key and I click and drag, you can see that I'm snapping at 1 degree increments. Okay, so you can look at my Y position as I drag this around. Okay, and that can be very useful. So by setting this at 2, it's kind of perfectly aligned. So I'm not going to get any competing edges. Things are going to line up okay. I'm going to hold down the Command key and snap this over. I'll take a look at the edge, and this is probably where I'll run into a little bit of a glitch because I'm overlapping. If I really want this edge to match up, I'm snapping in 1 degree increments, and the math just isn't working out for that to line up. So what I can do is I'll go into Edit, snap settings. And this will give me finer control. I can actually customize the snap settings. And I'll take this down, the move to 0.5. All the move values I'm going to set to 0.5 meter so that I get a little bit more nuanced control. And as long as I'm working in whole numbers, I should always be able to find the edge of things. Okay, so I have this outer wall. I'm going to throw a material on this right now just to differentiate it from everything else that I'm about to see. And I'm going to duplicate this. So Command D, I'll duplicate it. And I'll just hold down the Command key again and drag all the while I'm snapping. Okay, so every time I move, I'm snapping, and that gives me really precise control. I'm going to duplicate this one more time and rotate it. So I'm basically just creating, walls on the outside so I don't fall off my play area. So I'll duplicate the outer wall one more time. And, oops, didn't want to do that. I'll duplicate, and I have a choice. I could either change the scale, kind of scale this in a different direction, or I could just rotate this 90 degrees along the Y, which is what I'll choose to do. And again, I'm going to snap this. Now, I'm going to run into a little bit of an issue here because the width of both of these are 50, and the way that the math works out is that in this case, I'll get a little bit of overlap here. Okay, so there's actually competing polygons here. And I don't see it just yet, but when I play the game, I might start seeing some flicker. In fact, if I throw a different material color on here, I'm sure that I'll see it when I zoom in and zoom out. See that happening? I'm getting that flicker. It's kind of subtle, but you'll see it passing through, like I can see it down here. Okay, this is a bad thing. This is called Z fighting. Many of you have discovered this before, but you never want polygons to occupy the same space because then you get the textures that are fighting. So in this case, it's a really simple fix. I can just take this new wall that I created and scale it down to 48. The math works out because I'm working in whole meters. I lose a meter on either end and things just line up perfectly. Okay? So I'm going to duplicate this one more time to finish my outer walls. And this time I'm not holding down the Command key just to show you kind of some pretty sloppy movement. So I can hold down, I'm thinking mathematically, okay, just kind of in whole numbers or things that are easy to divide. My ground is 50 units, so it's 50 of those wide. The two outside units I'm not really using, and that's less important I don't need to calculate those things, but when I model things or make new stuff, I know that I want to make them based on a meter or 2 meters or 3 meters, so they kind of occupy a space that I can snap things together like Lego bricks if I need to. Now, when we get into ourselves in a situation where we need to line up edges of polygons, we can do this with any 3D model. I've kind of lost my snap. Now I can fix it by zeroing out these coordinates again and then starting to snap, but I can also snap vertices, and this is really, really useful. Snapping vertices is basically picking a point. So I have a corner over here that would match up nicely with this corner. So if I have a game object selected and I hold down the V key, V for vertex, it'll highlight the closest vertex to my mouse, and I can just click and drag, and it's going to snap. I can't drag this freely around the scene because it's snapping to other vertices as long as I hold down that V. So I'm going to get it close right there, and I'll release it. And even if I didn't get it exactly right, which I think I did from that far away, mathematically I'll be in a space that I'm like 0.5 meter off this way or 0.5 meter off if I went to the wrong vertex. Okay, so let's give that a shot. Let's rough out